Story 1. You wake up reluctantly. You go to work hating every second of your time there, feeling nothing but fatigue no matter how good a day you had. Then you go home and sleep because the effort to do anything is too great. Story 2. You put on a mask and look happy, doing all the things you need to do every day. But when you are all alone, you feel sad, lonely, and hopeless. Story 3. Not sure if that is what I am experiencing, but I can do everything I have to, and I make sure I do it well. However, when it comes to free time and doing what I want to, I am unable to do anything else but rest and turn inward. Story 4. You do the things you are supposed to do. Maybe not very well, but you do them. You do not want to do them. You do not want to do anything, and when you have a bit of free time, you spend it sleeping or lying down. You do not do your hobbies or other things that used to make you happy. You do not really feel sad, angry, or happy. You just exist. I do not know how universal this is, but I used to play a game while driving where I imagined that someone on the road made a massive mistake and I ended up dying because of it. My psychologist said this is suicidal ideation, but I am not sure if I agree with that. I was not thinking about committing suicide. I would never do that. I was just thinking about dying and being dead. Story 5. A lot of masking. You pretend that everything is fine because you do not want to talk about it. You do not want people prying into things. You wake up and lie in bed longer than you probably should before begrudgingly dragging yourself out of bed with just enough time to brush your teeth, wash your face, and get dressed before going to work. You may or may not eat breakfast. At work, you go through the motions of pretending everything is fine. You do your job. You even do it well, if your coworkers and performance evaluations can be trusted. You feel like you are doing everything wrong. During breaks, you probably do not interact with coworkers. You may stay in your office, go to a corner of the break room, or sit in your car. After work, you probably grab some fast food on your way home because you are so drained from the day that you know you will not have the energy to cook a proper meal. Or you order delivery once you get home. At the same time, you know you probably should not be spending all this money on takeout or delivery on food that is probably unhealthy, and that makes you feel even worse. You ignore phone calls from friends and loved ones. You do not enjoy the things you used to love. Maybe you tell yourself that it is just because you have been so busy and tired. You do not return calls or texts. If you remember, maybe you will take a shower before you go to bed. Either way, as you fall asleep, one of your last thoughts for the night is that if there is a just and merciful God, you will not wake up in the morning. Then, the next day, you do it all over again. And because you have gotten so good at masking, no one will ever know. Story 6. It feels like you are running on 10% charge, but everyone thinks you have 100%. You go to work, you smile, you reply to messages with emojis and exclamations. People call you dependable, fun, even strong. But as soon as you are alone, the mask falls off. You are exhausted, not just physically, but as if your soul is weary. Even simple things get put off, and then you quietly hate yourself for it. You keep asking yourself, why am I like this? You keep functioning because to stop is to invite questions you are not ready for. That is why you are playing a role. And because you are still acting, no one notices how much you are hurting. Sometimes not even yourself. Story 7. It's like being the actor, director, and spectator of a life you are not really living. You are laughing on time, saying the right words, meeting deadlines, but it is all like a script. You are functioning, yes, but joy, the connection with someone, that part of the script is gone. Story 8. You do everything because you have to, not because you want to. You do not want to do anything. Story 9. It's hard to describe since I've had it since I was 8 years old. I can be happy in spurts, but I have no long-term happiness. I can do the things I need to do, but the things I want to do are very hard. I have to force myself to do things I enjoy because I get tired so fast. This is actually why I use Reddit so much. Typing doesn't take a lot of physical strength. Here is a list of things that I struggle with. Constant dissatisfaction. I am never satisfied with anything I do. It is frustrating knowing where my talent lies but not being able to find joy in things like doing a good job, improving, learning, or collaborating. Sometimes I think that my brain wires things I should be proud of as obligations, and I can't feel happy when my subconscious views things as the bare minimum. Executive dysfunction. This is heavily affected by having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but imagine the feeling you get when you think about putting your hand on a hot stove, how your brain forces you not to do that. Imagine that with literally every task. Just brushing my teeth fills me with a sense of dread that I have to physically push through. It's exhausting. Procrastination. This is different from executive dysfunction, but I realize I put off many things out of fear of being more depressed if I don't do them right. As I am typing this, I am putting off playing a video game I have been excited about for some reason. Nothing has emotional weight. All my emotions now have become mostly cognitive experiences. It is like thinking, I should feel happy right now, so I am going to act like I am happy. Masking numbness is exhausting. Time goes by too fast. When you are a child, everyone goes at the same pace. You are not left behind when you can function. But now I am an adult in charge of my own opportunities, and I just cannot do anything. I am 20 and I feel 14. Sometimes I feel like I haven't grown up at all. I still like and do everything I did when I was 14. What is frustrating is feeling like my younger siblings are more mature than me in interests when they are 13 and 16. They are into grown-up stuff and I am into Pokemon and similar things. Chronic pain. Your emotions manifest physically, and your pain manifests emotionally, creating a cycle of constant hurting. Story 10. For me, I was working as normally as possible, but I was losing interest and motivation. Sometimes, I just stared at my screen for 30 minutes, incapable of doing anything productive. I was also avoiding colleagues more. Story 11. You go through life wearing a mask, and people around you think you are doing well. On paper, you might seem to be doing well. Good job, a loving partner, hobbies, and friends. But when you are alone, there is a sadness and void you cannot explain. Story 12. Hoping to heaven you get to shower alone so you can cry your eyes out without having to answer questions. And when your eyes are swollen and watery, it is hay fever. Story 13. For me, most days are normal. Then I suddenly fall into a really dark place without warning. Once, I stayed in bed for several days, contemplating the worst, unable to do so much as write a message to another person for help. I slowly pull myself out of that and continue, sometimes for days, weeks, or months, but eventually it boils over and I have to struggle. Story 14. It is very difficult. You have to push yourself hard just to get through the day. There is no enjoyment to be found in anything. It takes almost nothing to make you spiral down into wishing for death. You do not fear it anymore, and the only person you are scared of is yourself. Story 15. On the good days, I mostly feel like I have brain fog with an underlying sadness beneath. It's like floating through life, not really reacting to events until much later or not at all, and feeling exhausted all the time. But I smile and laugh when I am around people, and over the years, this has become my facade and personality. I am mostly known as the funny one, but when I am home and alone, the sadness surfaces, and everything becomes incredibly exhausting. This pattern has repeated for decades. Let's just say if someone ended my life in the next 3 minutes, I would be more than fine with it. On the bad days, I just lie flat on my bed, unable to do anything. Sometimes I cry, but crying is exhausting. There are voices in my head that often won't stop yelling at me. Then when they're gone, it returns to numbing silence and sadness. Sometimes I binge eat unhealthy food like bags of chips and then feel disgusted with myself. But again, I can't wallow for too long because I need to pay my bills, so I go back to work the next day. Story 16. It is different for everyone, of course, but for me personally, I fall into a routine of going through the motions until I can distract myself with games, YouTube, or social media. I sleep, eat, go to work, and then do nothing productive. The thought of doing chores or even bathing feels overwhelming sometimes. I have to psych myself up for the smallest tasks. Then I am proud of myself afterward, but my hours of inactivity feel justified in my mind. It is not so much a feeling of sadness or hopelessness, just apathy and exhaustion. Story 17. It feels like a strange kind of hell. You are trapped between being what everyone knows you as, productive, easygoing, good all-around person, and who you really are, a scared, lonely, and empty soul just barely existing. Story 18. I would describe myself like this when I was younger. I had good grades, participated in sports and clubs, and worked on many personal software projects during middle and high school. A couple of years into school, I was hospitalized and dropped out, but I still somehow got a corner office at my programming job. I ended up experiencing extreme burnout in my early 20s due to balancing my mental health with long hours and tight deadlines. I decided to book a one-way flight to Thailand on a Saturday while in my office. I left everything as it was, wrote down all my passwords for the chief technology officer, and sent my resignation email right after buying the flight. I have been in Asia ever since, and I am happy now. Story 19. You wake up at a decent hour. You do your chores and responsibilities mostly, but do not want to do much of anything else. Nothing really motivates you, and you look forward to ending the day, but also do not want a new one to start. Story 20. Everything feels difficult, and it seems pointless. You want to lie down, but you get up with a smile on your face and do it anyway. Story 21. It is your brain knowing everything it needs to do and being able to do it, but having absolutely nothing that you want to do. Even things that you feel like should be fun or exciting are just chores. There is no joy in anything. Every act becomes an obligation. Even things like hiking, traveling, video games, reading, watching movies, and going on dates feel like you are doing them because you know they should be enjoyable. But they just are not anymore. You stop making plans outside of what is mandatory because those things drain every bit of energy you have. There is no you left over. You feel exhausted 30 minutes after waking up, and it does not go away until you are asleep again. Life becomes stale because it feels like you are forced to participate in your own life without ever feeling any of the joy or excitement from being there. It really sucks. Story 22. Like being normal except you are wearing a very heavy-weighted vest and your feet are in cement blocks. After a while, it becomes tiring and exhausting and puts emotional strain on you. Sure, you can make it through the day, but this is what it feels like to be weighed down and not be able to control it in any way, fashion, or form. Story 23. I think that is the one where, one day, you find yourself thinking, apparently, I have been depressed, but nobody told me. Story 24. I have major depression with atypical features. After starting medication, I am quite functional in my work life, but that is the extent of my energy and motivation. Home chores are difficult. I have not folded my clothes in years. Cooking is a challenge, and my general exercise level is very low. The main issue is anhedonia, not taking pleasure in things. I do not enjoy gaming like I used to, even when I have the energy to do so. I cannot find pleasure in any hobbies. Sex, which triggers a high dopamine response, is rewarding and enjoyable. Other than that, I do not enjoy activities like I used to, including cubing, gaming, exercising, and cooking. I feel like I just get things done to pay the bills but gain no satisfaction from anything else. I try to play a game or exercise, but I stop after about 10 minutes due to extreme boredom. I am also a recovering addict going through post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which may contribute to the anhedonia. Time will tell if this is the case. It should take roughly 2 years to get my brain back in shape. Best of luck to those struggling with depression who have not found any relief. It is a hard life. Story 25. It's like I wake up in the morning disappointed I'm alive. I try to enjoy things I used to love or new things, but they don't give me any joy. I put on a fake smile for my kids and wife. My wife knows I'm depressed, so I am honest with her when we are alone. Sometimes I cry when it's overwhelming, and I tell my kids it's because sometimes grown-ups get sad. Nothing gives me joy except for the 3 to 4 times I go out in nature with some friends and enjoy a joint or mushrooms in front of the bonfire with some good music. That gives me a week-long boost where I'm generally happy. Before any questions. 1. I don't smoke regularly because it's illegal and the government would take our kids, I would lose my license, and generally be at odds with society. B. I have the alcoholic gene in both my families, so I don't risk becoming addicted to that feeling. Yes, I have tried antidepressants, and they keep me feeling flat. I'd rather enjoy the times I'm happy and endure the times I'm really depressed because this too will pass. Story 26. I have a good job with a good income, a wife I love, a house near the sea, and 2 great kids. I am a nationally respected and renowned expert in my line of work. and I have a circle of good friends who care about me. I also keep myself fit, able to do a good number of pull-ups and dips at age 52. On some days, the feeling of self-hatred is just voices in my head telling me what a failure I am and that someday I will be found out as the fraud I feel like. Those are the better days. On worse days or weeks, it becomes a physical pain that is almost insufferable. It is a feeling of disgust with my very being, as if my body were allergic to my soul. Story 27. You would kill to actually feel something. You are just numb with the grim certainty that things will not get better. Even sadness or anger would be better than nothing. Story 28. You do activities you love that make you happy, yet you feel absolutely nothing. It feels like you are buried underground while the rest of the world continues, and you cannot even bring yourself to care about it. Story 29. You just know there is no point in life and you wake up every day wishing you would die, but keep living and thriving nonetheless. There is a point when you have been depressed for a really long time in which you start ignoring those thoughts and keep living even though you see no point in it at all. Story 30. It feels like getting up in the morning, getting to school or work on time, doing whatever needs to be done, coming home and doing chores, maybe wasting time on social media watching the clock change until it is time for bed, then falling asleep. You go through your day just like every other person, without feeling fulfilled by it. It is hard to find joy, even in joyful things. Someone might have the skill to notice your dead eyes. You are like a puppeteer controlling a body because you were told that is what you have to do. You do not feel attached to your body or your identity. You look in the mirror but cannot fully conceptualize that the person staring back is you. This is not what it felt like to live when you were 5, is it? You cannot fully remember. You are just burnt out, exhausted, and numb or sad all the time, with maybe small pockets of a smile that disappear the moment you think about it or get a bad thought. The life you are living does not feel like your own. If you open up to someone who is not in a position to understand, you will probably hear back, "There is no way. You do things perfectly. People with depression do not do that. You are just a little sad." Or, "That is a hormonal, diet, or exercise issue. Just do this thing I am going to suggest and it will go away." Spoiler, it will not. Story 31. Like being a cog, constantly working, spinning, and keeping the machine alive. But you are rusty and falling apart, and the rest of the machine just keeps doing what it does. There is no acknowledgement or help, just existence and continuation. Story 32. Like autopilot mode, you learn to think less and go with the flow, with low interactions with others and a lot of memory loss. It is hard to retain information said to you because you are not fully present. It is difficult to sleep at night, and for some reason you feel much older than you should, which is probably due to years of sleep deprivation and a poor diet. Story 33. I get up early, go to work, do my job, go home, and get in bed. I might just lie on top of the sheets and scroll, watch videos, or take a nap. I have no desire to really do anything, and making plans feels like an inconvenience. I piddle around the house and stare at my bikes, wishing I had the motivation to ride them. I stare at my camera and wish I cared enough to take pictures. I take out the trash and feel like I've done enough for the day. I take naps just so I don't have to experience a few more hours in my day. I get really emotional at random things. The underlying cause is a looming, vague dread with hints of paranoia and low self-worth. Sometimes I just stare at the wall. I repeat that day after day for months or years, occasionally snapping out of it to do the things I like, only to abandon them and go back to being reclusive. I put forth the lowest possible effort day to day, mustering just enough energy to do my job well and get paid. Every few months, I realize life is quickly passing me by and lament a future of mediocrity and numbness. Story 34. For me, I am basically always passively suicidal. I'm not going to swerve into traffic, but if a semi-truck were to swerve towards me, I wouldn't move kind of mentality. I wake up, I walk my dogs, I go to work, I play on my phone, I go to bed. Every day is the same, so my memories are foggy, as is my sense of time. If you ask me, well, how long ago did this happen? I genuinely couldn't tell you. Feels hollow. Story 35. It makes life feel like one long job that you are good at but have no passion for. You are not allowed to quit, and there is no retirement. It is a job you will have until the day you die. You spend every day waiting for your work to end. You go to sleep every night dreading your next day at work. Story 36. I call it robot mode. Get up, do the bare minimum, sleep, repeat. Some days are better than others, and I might clean something. Story 37. You go through the day without experiencing any moments of joy, and the highlight of the day is going to sleep at night. Story 38. It feels like you are dying because you are holding so much anger, grief, and pain inside, but know that someone cares and is willing to listen. Story 39. Think back to when you were young and discovering music for the first time. Imagine your friend brings you a compact disc, claiming it's the best band ever, their absolute favorite band. You listen to the compact disc, giving it a fair shot, but it just isn't for you. You find it a bit boring, a bit repetitive. You don't want to hurt your friend's feelings, so you tell them, yeah, it's all right. They seem a little crestfallen, but you both move on. For the next few months, you notice this band is everywhere. They're extremely popular. You hear the singles from that compact disc a lot. Anytime you're in a cafe, a colleague plays some music to work to, or you're at a party or social event, it's that band over and over again. You think, maybe there's something I'm missing. You do a deep dive into their discography. It's surprisingly extensive. Decades of material. You're diligent, working your way through most of it over the next few months. There are moments of inspired music, maybe a bridge with a cool groove or an intro that sounds promising, but the track falls flat. Ultimately, you can't see what all the fuss is about. This band just isn't for you. Years pass. The band has been grating on you for almost as long. You've given them as many honest chances as you could stomach, but the disconnect between what everyone else experiences and what you feel starts to make you feel a little crazy. You discover you can tolerate listening to the band when you are a little drunk or high, but beyond that, you feel slightly triggered every time one of their songs starts, and you know them all by heart. One day, you're riding in the car with friends, and the driver puts in that compact disc they first brought to your house all those years ago. Your mind quietly snaps. Can't we listen to something else for a change? You ask. Yeah, sure. I've got all of their compact discs in the trunk. No. I mean, can't we listen to a different band? They look at you like you're crazy and start laughing. You shrink into the car seat, feeling yourself blush. Suddenly you realize you've never heard another band. Never mind that you've never even heard of another band. You remember when you looked at their discography in the record store. They were the only band there. The same faces on every album cover. Different haircuts, different makeup, different spandex, but always the same band. There are no other bands. This band is all there is, all there ever will be, and it just isn't for you. The band's name is Life. What I'm describing with this metaphor is how, much like you might not be into sports, cooking, movies, or whatever applies to you, you feel complete disinterest towards something others enjoy. No matter how many times you try to feel the same way, you don't. Now imagine feeling that way about living itself. It's brutal. It's complete, all-encompassing exhaustion, confusion, and boredom. A desperate, quiet internal search for anything to connect with until, presumably, some people just give up searching. Story 40. Waking up feeling already exhausted. Going to work, and although you enjoy your coworkers, likely your boss makes it insufferable. You relish the commute home because it is one of the few chunks of time you have to yourself to de-stress. You love your home life, but sometimes just need to be alone. It feels like you want to do everything yet nothing at the same time. You want to go out, but you are hoping the plans get canceled. Story 41. Zero motivation to do anything, but a set of habits that work well enough to keep you employed and relatively healthy. Story 42. You go to work every day, come home and do your chores, go out and play with friends, then come home to rest. Yet you are always tired and empty, but you get up in the morning and do it all over again, mostly with a smile on your face. Story 43. Like you are just going through the motions, there are very few things that actually make you happy. Story 44. What is the solution? I have this, but I just struggle to get through life without seeking help. Are pills the solution? Story 45. Having high-functioning depression feels like pretending to be a team player, dreading every second of it, and counting down the time until you reach your comfort zone, alone with no one else around. Story 46. The best way I can put it is you always have a gray tinted filter on everything. Things are getting done and done well. I am able to converse normally and function, but everything is colorless. No life, no sound, nothing but gray and clouded. I have found myself being extra cautious about my own feelings because it can catch you quickly. Once it catches you, the brink of crumbling is not far. Story 47. I do everything I am supposed to, not because I want to, but because not doing it would lead to issues. For example, not showering would reveal my problem to others. However, I have no motivation to shower or take care of myself. In front of others, I always put on a smile and make sure they feel good, even though I never feel happy or content. I mostly feel nothing and withdraw from people who are too busy or uninterested to care. I stay in bed in the morning until I have only 5 minutes left to get ready, but I prepare enough to keep my struggle unnoticed. It is basically performing well enough for my depression to be unnoticed. Story 48. I go to bed late because I don't want to deal with tomorrow. The alarm goes off, I hit snooze. Oh no, now I'm late. I guess I'm not taking that shower. I go to work late and already feel behind. I browse emails but put off replying. I drink too much coffee for breakfast. I trudge through work and maybe eat lunch. I procrastinate until it's too late in the day to be productive. I stay late to try to make up for it. I go home. The lawn is overgrown and the laundry is piling up. I decide to do it tomorrow. I find a rabbit hole of minor tasks and get immersed. I realize it's midnight and I should go to bed. I repeat. Story 49. Well, it turns out if you are stressed for long enough, you start producing milk. I would say it feels like sore breasts and dissatisfaction with yourself. Story 50. Have you ever had a new video game and all day long you couldn't wait to get home and play it? That is kind of what it feels like. But instead of a video game, it's just crying. In my darkest but still functional moments, I felt like I was being held together by duct tape and chewing gum. I would hold it all together with everything I had, and the second I got home, I would just lie on the floor and cry. But it got to a point where I was looking forward to that release. I felt like crying all day most of the time, but I pushed it all in until I was at home and alone. I'm doing better now. I actually get excited for video games again. Story 51. It's hard to explain, but imagine it like this. For everyone else, you are basically normal. You have friends you frequently meet, you go to school and have good grades, and you take care of yourself. However, instead of doing it for yourself, you do it for others. You do it so people won't see that something is wrong. Your mood jumps from one emotion to the next, and you feel empty inside. You don't find enjoyment in new things and keep a routine so you don't have to face the fact that you don't have anything else to go on. Your life has no meaning, and you don't know how it will continue. Story 52. For me, it's just waiting to die. I don't have anything in my life that makes me happy. No children, and my wife, who was my everything, just broke up with me one day. There was no explanation other than, I don't love you that way anymore. I have hobbies and friends, but I have to force myself to do things, or I'll just sit here. I have a decent job, but I'm the miserable one on the team. Everyone knows this, so I don't get bothered, and I purposefully avoid social interactions with them outside of work. I function and get done what I need to get done, but I don't have much motivation. That has been sapped from me over the years. The final thing that kind of locked me here was finding my brother dead after he had been there for 2 days and having to break the news to my mother and sister, who were outside his door. Since then, I've become very withdrawn and only socialize when I have to. I've tried therapy, antidepressants, meditation, everything. Nothing works, so I've accepted my fate and that I will feel this way until the day comes that I don't wake up. Story 53. I'm not highly functioning, but I work 40 hours a week and complete errands and chores. I do not sleep my days away. It often feels like I am sleepwalking through life. I am here but not present, just trying to get through the day most of the time. I wake up already exhausted. I want connection with people but often cannot muster the energy to reach out. I worry I am not great company and just bring people down. Story 54. For me, it is a feeling of being lost in an ocean without a boat or life raft. But as long as you keep swimming, working, moving, and forcing yourself to do the things, you can keep your head above water. Even then, sometimes you get exhausted and start to sink, or a wave crashes on top of you and pulls you under. That is when you really have to fight to get your head back above the water. At least that is how it feels for me. Story 55. It feels like you are constantly exhausted mentally and emotionally, but still getting everything done. Work, chores, and social activities. On the outside, you look fine, maybe even successful, but inside it feels like dragging yourself through mud every day. Story 56. Like you are winning the game on the outside but losing quietly every day inside. Smiling through storms no one else can see. Story 57. For me, it is getting through the day without curling up into a ball and rocking back and forth in a corner. Unfortunately, today is not one of those days. Story 58. I am luckily out of it, but for me, it felt as though I was running on autopilot and looking at myself from the third person, moving through monotony and not making any effort to improve my situation due to exhaustion. Story 59. I usually work, take care of my child, and enjoy activities with her. My depression hits mostly when I am alone. No one ever knew I was bipolar and had severe depression. Story 60. Like being a machine, really good at the tasks I did during those times, really productive but empty on the inside. No joy even after the best shifts, not even happiness about good grades. Only functioning and feeling empty and lonely. When fighting back to joy again, some parts of my life are still sad and breaking me down, but I have the good things and the bad. I can cry about the lack of love in my life and be happy from the inside out when a patient walks out fine. I am still good at what I do, but I can really live with it and not just function. Story 61. Work gets accomplished well enough because there is no choice in it. You must do it. Outside of that, you lack mental energy or interest in almost everything, even things that might make you happy because nothing really does. Story 62. Based on the definition, I think it means you feel generally sad but still go to work. This sounds like most people. Story 63. I can work and do most everything, but when my marriage was disintegrating, I just couldn't eat much. Half a slice of pizza was filling. I had no appetite at all. Story 64. Getting up and going to work, usually in some sort of mood no matter what is going on. Comes home and does as little as possible. Repeat. Story 65. Things get done as others have said, but even when things are done well or there are achievements to be celebrated, such as a promotion at work or passing your classes in school, you just cannot. You are continuously making mistakes, so the minute you reveal them, it gets worse. Story 66. You go to work because you need money. You stop seeing friends or only occasionally see them and do not feel any excitement or anticipation to hang out with them. You have sex but might do it more out of obligation than desire if you are married or dating. You smile, laugh, and make small talk with coworkers, but when you get home, the mask is gone and you are stoic and numb. You always feel like you have no energy but sometimes force yourself to do essentials like cooking and cleaning. You spend any time you are not working in bed or on the couch watching television or doing other non-physical activities. Nobody knows you are depressed except maybe your significant other because you hide behind a smile. Story 67. Like being on autopilot. I get the stuff done that I have to do, but I mask the whole time. There is little to no enjoyment, but when I do find some pleasure, I try to prolong it, which ends up making it exaggerated. I talk too much and am overenthusiastic. Once the pleasure is gone, I feel deflated. It is the whole chasing dopamine thing, I guess. Story 68. Imagine carrying someone on your shoulders all day while they constantly complain. You can carry them and ignore their words, but you feel their weight. Eventually, you become exhausted and start hearing all their depressing thoughts. Then you just crash. Story 69. I think it's the ability to suppress your depression and anxiety to achieve the standard of perfection you feel you'll never reach, either for yourself or your family. But every once in a while, it starts breaking out and bits come up, and it feels like you want to just end it once and for all. But you don't, and it slowly gets put back into a box, and you're back on a strange, happy, friendly autopilot, all while knowing it's all fake, but also knowing that nobody would care if you talked about it. You wonder how long you can stay like this before one day it won't work. But until then, stay perfect and do what needs to be done because nobody is coming to save you. Story 70. It feels like I'm trapped in a well with cinder blocks on my ankles trying to drown me. But I keep treading water every day because the only other choice is death. If I'm going to tread this water, I'm going to do it hard and well and try to find as much peace as I can in this life. Every single day is a battle. Story 71. The sadness is unpredictable. One day you might have the energy to mow the lawn. The next day you are too sad to get out of bed. Story 72. High functioning is not an actual clinical term and is becoming somewhat frowned upon in the mental health field. It is a dismissive term and not very person-centered. Story 73. You wake up, do your job or whatever else you need to do, and then go to sleep, all the while feeling like there is a lead weight bound to your eyes and forehead. You don't want to do anything, but you do it anyway because that is just what you are supposed to do. Caring about things for real takes too much effort, more than your mind allows you to exert. No matter how much you accomplish, no matter how many compliments and how much praise you receive, it all just invokes the same reaction of wow. Great. Story 74. Exhausting. You go through all the day-to-day motions necessary to get by, and you are silently miserable the entire time. Takes an immense amount of effort to mask. Once you have downtime, there is no energy left to do anything besides the basics of surviving. Story 75. Have you ever used ecstasy or Molly? If so, you know the feeling you have when you come down, the deep sadness, emptiness, and despair that lasts from 1 to 3 days. That feeling is constant for some people. Story 76. I explained it to someone once like this. You know those days you wake up and just don't have it that day? You're not all in. You're tired, your brain is slow, everything seems harder, and you are off your game. That might happen a couple of times a year, maybe. Well, for me, that is every day. But I have still accomplished everything I have in my life. High-level depression usually means people close to you feel you are not living up to your potential, while people you work with or see only in certain contexts think you are doing well. Story 77. It feels like nothing. You just go through your day on autopilot with no excitement or enjoyment. Then you go to bed quietly, hoping you do not wake up the next morning. Story 78. I think the hardest part is knowing something is good or happy and knowing you should feel good or happy, but it is just not there. It is an amazing meal that tastes like cardboard. Story 79. It feels like you are swimming and just barely drowning, constantly almost about to come up for air, but right before you can break the surface and get that breath, something pulls you down just enough to keep you where you started. Story 80. Here's the analogy I use when describing it to a non-depressed person. Imagine that you have to move yourself from point A to point B 50 feet away. For a normal person, they just stand up and walk across the ground for the 50 feet and they are done. Very simple. When you are depressed, the task is the same, but it is not solid ground. It is loose, wet mud that you sink into up to your knees, and it completely surrounds you. To move, you have to lift your leg up so high as to get it completely out of the mud, then plant it back into the mud somewhere in the direction that you want to go. Then repeat until you get there. Sometimes you fall down and get covered by the mud, which is difficult because you do not want to look like you have been traipsing through the mud, but your legs are already covered in it anyway. It is not that your destination is that far away. It is that the effort involved to do even the simple act of trying to get there is exceptionally draining. You can still get there, but it is slow and exhausting. To top it off, when you actually arrive at your destination, you are still covered in mud. What antidepressants do in this context is lay down planks over the mud for you to walk on. You get where you are going with a lot less effort and a lot more speed. You can focus on doing the thing you meant to do once you get there instead of on the act of getting there. It will not guarantee that you will be completely mud-free, and you can still fall off the planks right back into the mud, but it is better than no planks at all. Source: personal experience as a depressed person. Story 81. You wake up and do the things you are supposed to do, but every second you hate it. Every moment you are awake, you wish you were asleep and able to escape. Story 82. I need to go to the grocery store and have that appointment later. I also need to get the laundry done. My life feels utterly pointless. I could just end my life. But then my parrot and husband would be alone, and they hate one another, so I guess I'll just start the laundry. Story 83. Like a duck on a pond. On the surface you look calm, but underneath you are paddling hard just to complete the next task. Story 84. Constant dread and nervousness mixed with general enthusiasm and good cheer. Sometimes hungry, sometimes crying in a parking garage, usually not. Story 85. Like nothing, just blankness. I am just along for the ride in my own body, going through the motions. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Story 86. It feels like limbo. I am sick enough to be unhappy, but not sick enough to qualify as recognizably sick. All the expectations and none of the empathy. It would anger me if I was not so tired all the time. I still have enough energy to drag myself through the motions of the day and spend my free time worrying about a future I do not really believe I will ever see. Story 87. An empty pit of nothing. After a few decades, you just sit on the fun train and anticipate the cliff with relish. Even suicide is too much effort. Story 88. Imagine all you feel is emptiness, sadness, and anger. That's it. You are just flowing through life. Everything is tasteless. Nothing makes you happy. You enjoy nothing in the long run. Everything that you enjoy is momentary and short-term, like chocolate or masturbation. It just takes your mind off things for a second or two. Everything else is just wasting time until it's over. Story 89. I can do everything seemingly normally, but when I am alone, I want to crawl into a hole. Also, when I think back on what I did, all the memories from that time are in black and white instead of color. Story 90. It just makes everything harder. Feels like you are getting things done, but you are trudging through mud the entire time. It is tiring. Story 91. Joyless. You cannot imagine anything will ever get better, and you know if you slow down and let yourself think for even a second, you will crash and burn. Story 92. Running through your whole day with a short rope tied around your waist. Your day only exists to go back to bed. Story 93. You pour into other people and are seen as upbeat or capable, whether at work, social events, or in romantic relationships. But when you are alone, you can barely find the strength to do anything but sleep or worry about how you should clean or bathe, but just cannot. You never ask for help, even though you really need to talk to someone because you are so hyper-independent and used to carrying depression with you. It is not a phase or an episode. It is a constant presence that nags at you. I have had happy moments and times where I am full of gratitude, but I am never truly happy or at peace because I am always sick. Story 94. For me, my day is on autopilot. There is no emotional anchor, and I do not care about anything besides what my autopilot does. Story 95. I would wake up and feel empty. Cry at work, hidden in the laundry room during breaks, not caring that people could probably tell I had cried. Complete my tasks without interacting with others. Go home and lie awake, spiraling, then get up at 2 a.m. to walk outside while crying and avoiding other people. Return home and sleep only when completely exhausted and empty, then drag myself out of bed at 6 a.m. to go to work again. My hair started falling out. I did not eat much and lost weight, with permanent dark circles under my eyes. I was diagnosed with chronic depression a few years earlier and thought I had it under control, but during my internship abroad, it was like that the entire time. When I came back home, I had actual bald patches, and it took a few months to overcome the suicidal thoughts. Story 96. You get up, go to work, put on a face that does not show you are bothered, and make it seem like everything is fine. You go home, lie in bed, and doom scroll, thinking about how much you hate yourself, life, and being alone. Sometimes you cry and mostly just lie there in silence. Then you go to bed, get up, and repeat. You mainly do not show it to others and keep it to yourself. Story 97. You go through the day as normal, but maybe every 5 to 10 minutes you think about and glorify suicide, also known as suicidal ideation. Sometimes you fight these thoughts off. Other times you let yourself be distracted. You get home, do what needs to be done, try to do a hobby or show sympathy, but you don't really enjoy anything and go to bed hoping you will not wake up. Story 98. Doing everything because you are supposed to, and not knowing what it feels like to want to. Anything good you have going on feels like an accident of circumstance, and you have never planned anything. You are passionate about doing nothing, which is not an option. You spend years thinking that people who are driven are also just faking it. Story 99. A therapist once told me that a common experience among men, including my own depression, is that we often do not feel our emotions. I think of the song Narcolepsy by Ben Folds. I go through life doing what I need to do but do not feel much for anyone. I have ended many relationships because of this. Fortunately, I figured it out enough to get back together with one of my former girlfriends, who is now my wife and the mother of my two beautiful boys. Story 100. I was on automation. I did things because I had to, because of bills. I lived my whole life with a blank expression. The whole time another quite awful scenario playing in my head on repeat. Constant negative thoughts, zero socializing, feeling uncomfortable, gained a ridiculous amount of weight, which I am still struggling to lose. Yet the bills got paid, things got done, and people had no idea. Then I imploded. Story 101. It's dark and I'm totally empty inside. I've lived a life full of deep loss, trauma, and abandonment. Story 102. You do not quit no matter how hard it gets. No matter what happens around you, you keep doing the things you have to do. Your inner voice is crying and screaming for some rest, urging you to shut everything down and stay in bed. But then you end up working 12 hours. You travel, you have a social life, maybe, and even your parents cannot recognize your depression. Outside, you look like you have accomplished a lot. Story 103. You are an actor. The people in your life are your audience. Every day is a perfected performance. You smile just right, making sure your eyes crinkle so they don't see the fakeness. Your casual conversations are light and funny. They keep others off your scent. To your friends, you make yourself vulnerable just enough so they don't worry, don't ask, and don't come to the mess that is your life. You make sure that at work you are the best. You need money to survive, to keep up appearances that nothing is wrong. Because nothing can be wrong. If something is wrong, then you are not perfect. You are not all-seeing. Your contempt for humanity would be misplaced. Because there is contempt for humanity inside you, for how easily they are fooled into believing you. How easy it is to lie if you say the right things, show empathy at the right times, and smile the right way. Fools. This act becomes meaningless. This performance continues because humans are supposed to want to live. Because you have been told that humans feel sad if you were to end your life. Yet, are they not the selfish ones for wanting you to stay in hell? You get home after work. You set down your mask with your keys. You are submerged by depression, drowning over and over, and no one knows or hears. Water silences all sounds. Then you are in bed, crying and wondering why no one wants to dig deeper. Why no one sees past your performance to the real you. Why no one sees you. Are you the greatest actress of your generation? Or do people care so little that you should die? Maybe staying alive was never worth it and you lied to yourself. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.